Episode 6, August 11th, 2016. Aloha, comrades. Welcome to the Political Island podcast with your host, Josh. I'm Josh, your host, where we only talk about the most important goings-on in the political world. And today, yes, we're going to start with Pokemon Go. So, in the Republic of China, now that's not the People's Republic of China, which we're going to get to later in the episode, but the Republic of China, which you may know as Taiwan, is having a bit of a Pokemon problem. So on Saturday, the game released, and from Saturday until Monday, if I'm reading this correctly, authorities have issued 1,210 tickets for smartphone use and traffic, and more than 1,100 of the tickets were dished out to scooter riders. So, people in your car, it's obviously not right. You don't want to be on your phone while you're driving, but there are people who are driving scooters, which you arguably need two hands more so than you need in a car, and driving around in Taiwan playing Pokemon Go. Now, scooters are a lot more common in Taiwan, obviously. I don't think there are 1,100 in Texas altogether, but they are having a problem with it, and so it's becoming a public safety issue, and then, of course, government's getting involved. That story to you provided from Reuters, written by Fabian Haymaker. So I said we were going to get to talking about the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China, but they are currently participating in the Olympics right now. For one, 2016 has been great for the United States so far. The medal count as of me recording this episode has the United States at 15 gold medals, 12 silver medals, and 10 bronze medals for 37 total. And the People's Republic of China, who is in second place, with 11 gold medals, 8 silver, and 11 bronze for 30 total. And I just want to say USA, USA, go USA. It has been a whole bunch of fun being able to watch the Olympics. Right now, for a lot of people, at least, I don't know if I say for a lot of people like baseball. I'm not really much of a baseball guy, but this is kind of like the drought of sports between college basketball and hockey ending and then football starting. And so every 2 years, or I guess every 4 years, since they do the Winter Olympics in the winter, it's nice to have some sports to watch currently. And it's... Now, I don't know if any of y'all watched the opening ceremonies for the games in Rio, but man, what a step backwards. I just think back to Beijing in 2008, and even a step back from Sochi and the Winter Olympics that we had as far as like extravagance goes. And it's like, oh, well, money isn't everything. And you're right, money isn't everything. If you can put on a good show on a good budget, then who cares? But this was supposed to be a big one because the Rio de Janeiro Olympics it's the first time in a South American country. Like it was a big deal. We just had the World Cup in 2014, and everyone thought that it was going to be a disaster. And I think by what everyone was expecting, the 2014 World Cup of soccer wasn't too bad, but the Rio Olympics have been a disaster. If you haven't been able to read about it being a disaster, you must not have any news coming to your door or use any internet browser whatsoever. But they've had all sorts of problems with sewage. Everything's dirty. They have the city of Rio de Janeiro is insolvent. They're impeaching a president currently, and it's just a total mess. And then during their opening ceremonies, instead of doing a cultural kind of celebration of Rio, and they did some of it, and like Vancouver in 2010, I think they did a good job. They talked about all the different parts of their culture, but Rio decided to go the environmentalist route. Now, and it's like, your theme is environmentalism. This is the first time you're in a South American country, and that's the route that you want to go. Not to mention that I guess maybe that's the point. These BRIC nations. You have Brazil, Russia, India, and China, who are not third world countries, but not exactly modern westernized type nations, who are putting a lot of smog and smoke in the air because they're in an age where the United States was a long time ago, and so you have them being the largest contributors to these gases. But again, and I'm sorry if this may turn off a few viewers, but as far as man-made global warming goes, I think it's far less impactful than everyone else thinks. I'm not saying global warming, you can measure that, right? I mean, that if the numbers are right, then it is happening. But I think the impact of man-made global warming has been exaggerated. I think we wish that we were in more control of this earth than we actually are. We can't stop hurricanes, we can't stop tornadoes, and we think we're going to try and control a few degrees around the polar ice caps. And out here, I don't know. It seems cyclical, and again, I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but then I'm reminded of the 1970s when it was global cooling. The world's cooling down, and now that's going to it's ushering an ice age, and that's the end. So now it's global warming. Well, no, it's not global warming anymore. It's climate change. So that way they can have it both ways. So I think because of the scientists' wording, it makes me even more skeptical than I would have been before. I maybe would have been more open to global cooling if I were born in the 70s, but that's already been said and done, and they just keep changing the name. And language is very important. Language is very important and has a huge impact across whatever medium that people are listening to in. So I was a little bummed out. It was lower budget. They did the theme environmentalism, which it's like having an Olympic Games in the United States and then they decide that the theme is freedom. It's like, okay, yeah, freedom. We all know that people have it and don't have it, but why is that? And I guess kind of tongue-in-cheek, freedom is a part of our culture. I mean, it's kind of our foreign policy, especially during the Bush years, but I mean, just something so abstract still to a lot of nations, and that being the theme. I could have done a better job focusing more on the Brazilian culture for the same amount of budget and done a much better job than whatever Eurocentric person put on this show. I guarantee you, I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure it's done by someone in Western Europe who, the sky's falling and all. Anyway, neither here nor there. So I talked about the People's Republic of China who are competing in the Olympics. We also have what the Olympics call Chinese Taipei. Now, Chinese Taipei isn't actually a place. It's got a cute little flag, honestly. It's got a little flower looking, and it's got the star that you see from Taiwan and the Olympic rings, but Chinese Taipei isn't a place. It's a made-up flag, and in fact, whenever the Olympic whenever they do win the flag and the flag is raised for their country, well, it's not their country, but when the flag is raised, they play a song that's not the Taiwanese national anthem. So why is that? Why is the Republic of China not the Republic of China? And we're going to do a little history lesson, so hope you don't go to sleep. I'll try to make this as interesting as possible. So, you had the Chinese Civil War, you had the Maoist Communist Revolution happen, and then in opposition to him was Chiang Kai-shek, who was the president of the Republic of China, and his army was already weakened because of the Second Sino-Japanese War that had happened and ended whenever the United States had finished off Japan, where, by the way, probably some of the World War II's most horrendous atrocities happened at the hands of the Japanese towards the Chinese. Go look it up. It's some messed up stuff. Anyway, so Mao throws his revolution and uses the peasants in the Communist Party and fights against the ruling party and eventually pushes them out to the island of Taiwan. And to this day, Taiwan believes that what we know as China belongs to them, and People's Republic of China believes that Taiwan belongs to them. And they have both have what is commonly referred to as a one China policy. Well, as it turns out, the Americans eventually became one of those with a one China policy thanks to President Jimmy Carter and the Taiwan Relations Act, which essentially shut down formal diplomatic relations with the Republic of China, recognized it as Taiwan. We have a de facto kind of thing there, the American Institute that we have in Taiwan, and that's kind of how we maintain relations with them. But officially go through the People's Republic of China. You can thank President Carter for that, siding with the communists. Sorry, let me tell you how I really feel about Jimmy Carter, but I can do a whole episode on that. I could do 3 episodes on that. However, he pretty much sold out the Republic of China and Taiwan during this agreement, and he did it in return for some of the stuff that we were dealing in communist Afghanistan at the time. That's right, Afghanistan problems even back then, in case you didn't remember or know. And it was a myopic move. It was short-sighted. It was it damned the next generation of Taiwanese people and the Republic of China, and really weakened our stance in a very important, while China is surging, really weakened our stance with Taiwan today. It has implications that will reach beyond that. Very much how FDR kind of damned the next 4 generations of people in the former Soviet republics after making a deal with Stalin at the end of World War II. He also had former presidential candidate and senator from Arizona Barry Goldwater sue Jimmy Carter regarding the termination of direct relations and treaties that we had with the Republic of China. But because the Senate didn't put together a formal resolution before, there was really no standing for it, and that's part of the power of the executive office of the President of the United States of America. Now, I say all this not because Taiwan is pure and white as the driven snow. You had Yuan Shikai declare themselves as the Emperor of China, and I think his own military force rose up against them, and this was before the Cultural Revolution, really. But today, Taiwan has moved to become more democratic. They just elected a new president in 2016 from a new party, a Democratic Progressive Party, that wants nothing to really do with the People's Republic of China, who are trying to culturally influence and dominate them, which, I mean, when does that really work anywhere, whether it's China or Israel or heck, the United States? I mean, when does trying to force cultural values on people really actually work? I mean, you know what? Email me at politicalisland@gmail.com if you can think of an example on a national and political scale where that's really worked. Because I can think back to Rome, and I can probably go further if I'm thinking hard enough. So anyway, but Taiwan is moving towards democracy, and that's part of. It has moved significantly towards democracy now. Of course, are more laissez-faire in their economics. They don't manipulate their dollar to the extent that the People's Republic of China has been doing. I'm sorry to say that. I know it's one of Trump's talking points right now, but it's not something he's wrong about. He's wrong about trying to cut off relations with them and being bombastic about it. But that is something, is that their monetary policy has been, they've been artificially suppressing their yuan renminbi, which renminbi directly translates to the people's dollar. It's beautiful. I feel like either they're communist or they're just like really big Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fans. Anyway, I didn't go really deep into the struggle of Taiwan, Chinese Taipei. It's gone by a few other names. The Republic of China, of course, is the one that I use. But when you see it and you see them stand on the podium I think they've done really well in weightlifting this year, but when you see them stand on the podium, know that a part of that person doesn't get to stand for the pride of their country and listen to their country's national anthem at their achievement because of the International Olympic Committee, Jimmy Carter, and the United Nations. one last thing I'm going to throw in here before the show's over. It's something I'll probably talk about on another episode, but one of the reasons that the United States ended up not signing the Kyoto Accords, which was a very strong pact by a lot of nations, a lot of westernized and modern nations about cutting emissions, was because of China not being held to the same standard as other industrialized nations and getting to pretty much pump out as much as they want at the expense of the economic robustness of not just the United States, but the United States allies as well. So I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot, where, President Bush, of course, getting the butt end of, he wants to pollute the earth, and no one's pro pollution. Okay, people are just who are like, I'm pro environment. Well, there's no one who's pro pollution. There's not. Again, if you find that person, or maybe you find Dr. Robotnik from the Sonic games, but other than that, I can't figure out anyone who's pro pollution. So anyway, that was out of nowhere, but I've kind of wrapped this up on a little bow. China, environmentalism, and the United States of America. Anyway, I've gone over a little on time this week. I need to start doing them more often so I can cram more crap into more episodes. But I appreciate you listening to me today. Go ahead and download on iTunes, download on Google Play if you like to use Android instead, like a normal person. Also, you can look at YouTube, which honestly I'm just saying that if you don't want to download it and just want to stream it, that makes it easier as well. And I don't know, tell all your friends who want to be bored about politics to listen to it. The good news is that there's short episodes under usually around 15 minutes, and then you can only be bored for 15 minutes with your friends. So thank you for listening to the Political Island podcast. I will talk to you very soon. Aloha.